And so tonight we have three different presentations and really varied. We'll begin with Luis, and I'll explain more about it in a minute with going in images from Bonaire, and then Daryl with a very interesting topic on AI and how it applies to photography today. And then Matt Tremblay to an area that doesn't get all the publicity that in the South Pacific that the Philippines and Indonesia get a lot of press, and this area does not quite so much. But before we begin, I want to make clarify something here. So if Matt, I want to try to, okay, TWT is a different way of talking. It means talking without thinking. So the last meeting, I was practicing TWT because Ellen Agave had asked me a question at the very end. I don't know if anyone remembers this or not, but asked about, there was some images of some creature on the sand that I had a photograph of. And she asked about how is it that the sand isn't blown out? Because when she said that when she shoots that, sometimes that she blows out the sand. So without thinking, I said, well, I just move my strobes further away. Well, I'd also told her that I shoot manual with my camera, but my strobes are TTL. So if I move my strobes away, the strobes are just going to pump out more light. So I'm not doing anything. If I had the strobe set on manual and then moved them further away, well, now I'd be reducing the effectiveness of the strobe and therefore hopefully not burning out the sand. I hope that makes sense. I just didn't, afterwards, I thought of this the very next day. I'm swimming laps in a pool in the morning. And I said, what the hell did I say? Because I was completely, said, that's completely wrong. So the next day I called Matt and I said, I'm going to begin the next meeting by this and just explain it, because I just didn't want someone to think that that would be a way to solve their problem if they were burning out the sand. Those of you that dive locally and you're diving in some place like Back Beach or Old Garden where the sand is very bright, where you'd be blowing everything out and then thinking that you move your strobes away, and that's not going to solve your problem. So anyway, that's my mea culpa and screw up. And so now I'd like to begin with Luis. And Luis Fernandez is going to do he had a presentation on Bonaire, but it's a little different than other presentations in that this is the first time he is using a DSLR. He switched before, which I believe was a TG series camera. And so now I've switched to a DSLR. And like any kind of a switch, when you go from one camera to another, it doesn't make any difference what the camera is. There's always a learning curve. And, in the beginning and talking with Luis along the way, most of the problems that he had was because of the camera, not him. There was a malfunction. Once he got that squared away with the manufacturer, then everything was fine. And those of you that have been seeing his images should see they're very, very good.
Got some beautiful.
And then the transition from TG camera to a DSLR, that's going to be a topic by Luis at a future date, maybe in 2 months from now, I think. I forget what the schedule is. But and that way, just showing, he'll be able to show us what issues he had and what was difficult and so forth. So anyway, but right now, we'll go from wintertime in New England to Bonaire. And Luis, I'll hand this over to you.
All right, thank you, Andy. All right, let me share my screen. All right, can you see my screen?
Yep.
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 Somehow I gotta hide the pain of people, because that's not gonna work. All right.
It's under view options at the top.
Yeah, I just minimized it, Ellen. Thank you. All right. Well, like Andy said, this is about Bonaire. And the basically this was October of 28th, 2023 through November 4th, 2023 with Undersea Divers. And this is the first time on a trip that I switched over because I got a DSLR given to me by my wife and sons for my birthday in June. So I had to learn how to use it. And it's a Canon EOS 6D Mark II with a 100 millimeter macro lens. And it's all in an Icolite housing. I had one Icolite DS 162 160 second generation stroke of the Icolite with their TTL converter for Canon and sync cord. On the other arm, I basically put a Sola 2500 video light, and that's what I went down to shooting. And what I did is I had my strobe on a 12 o'clock position right over the flat lens port, a little angle to the outside. And this is one of the camera settings throughout in Bonaire all the time. I kept them at a shutter speed of 1 1/25 of a second, ISO of 200, and I had a pretty tight f-stop. I was at an f-stop of 22. So it was interesting to play with that. So this is basically a close-up of a Christmas tree worm. As I was trying to get it, obviously, we all seen this, and I was just trying to get close enough to show the little like feather-like fingers that it really has. But I was a little bit high on it. That's one thing that throughout this trip, as I looked at it after the trip at all my photos, is like, I'm trying to work on getting lower so that the photos are more eye level, like they usually suggest. This is basically a short strip goby in a purple barrel sponge. I always look in barrel sponges as we're going by, because there's always something hiding in. And as I was coming out around this one, I saw this little guy inside, and he actually came up to the edge and posed for me. So that was kind of nice of him. So I was able to, take the photo and keep on moving. This is a red lip blenny. This was definitely a shot of opportunity. I was swimming slowly by and just happened to see him. And by the time I turned and aimed the camera at him and everything, he was obviously, as you can see from the grains of sand, he was basically saying, "I'm out of here." But I did manage to get him before he left, or her. This is a smooth strunkfish. This guy, I was actually trying to take a picture of a stingray, and I was following the stingray. I saw him, so I kind of came over towards him. And usually they come towards you, but this guy was more interested in not only just coming towards me, but then feeding in the sand. So I was really trying to keep him in focus while I try to do this. And one of the things I really enjoy about these going through the DSLR and the 100 millimeter macro lenses, the amount of detail that you can actually see, you know, on the fish itself in this case, and even just the sand. Bended coral shrimp. He was hiding. I just was trying to get low enough to get at eye level. It's still not quite right, but you can tell that the focus point is closer to the eye, but because it's an f/22, I mean, you do lose some depth. So, you know, some of it is really not in focus depending on where it was in the frame. I was swimming by this fireworm, and I saw it and I said, well, this ought to be an interesting one, because with this lens, stuff that I could never see before on it, because my eyes aren't that good even that way, might come out really nice. And I thought it did. I mean, you can actually see the white on it. You can see all the, it really, like, it almost looks like it's got like little corals. It almost looks like little sponges, where his legs are and all that. So it's kind of neat to see it. I spent a lot of time looking for this for not just the Peterson shrimps, but the squat anemone shrimps. But on this anemone, I did find the this pair of Peterson cleaning shrimps, and this was definitely, this was on a dive or on the side of the slight wall, and I had just approached it just before. There was a chromie being cleaned, but I couldn't get that shot. Thought I kind of spooked them basically, but got lucky enough that I hung around, and even though I kind of moved a little further, and that's why it's not as good of a photo. But the pair of, you know, brown chromies came in to start being cleaned. If I would have had more time, I probably would have sat there, but the group kept going. So if I had it to do it again, I probably would have just sat there for a while. This was definitely a shot of opportunity again. Also, I mean, I just happened to be swimming by and just you know, looking for little things. Basically, I mean, I only have the macro lens on in the port, so it's not like I'm going to do wide angle. So I'm looking for small stuff, and just happened to see this red spotted hawkfish sitting there in between a couple of rocks. This is one shot that I kind of like and wish I'd done much better with it. This is a green razorfish, and I just happened to be swimming by, saw him. I started to approach, but then I stopped myself because I didn't probably get as close or as low as I could have. But it was more of a, well, I'm afraid I'm going to spook him, and I kind of like the way he looks in between that coral. But one of the things that I'd love to work on with this kind of stuff is more personally, is more the color. Even though I've played with it in Lightroom a lot, just the sand being kind of bluish bothers me. And there's a yellow head jawfish. We were in the shallows and, you know, just kind of doing our safety stuff for a little while, and we happened to hit an area where there were a lot of these guys, and they were just coming up and down, and I just basically hung there for a little while just to try to get them and try to see if I could get a good shot. I kind of slowly approached them, but this is the best I could do with this guy. But then I looked around, and there were a couple of other guys. This guy was hanging right outside of his hole. Again, I stayed a little far away from him, but I was able to get a good enough shot with it, because I think if I would have gotten any closer, he would have definitely been gone. Everybody loves to see the frogfish. It's a yellow frogfish. I know they don't move much, so it's kind of easier to take photos of them. The problem with this one was I couldn't position myself in the right way to really make him come up better, I think. More because you got all the sponges and there was some soft coral, if I recall correctly, towards the right side of the picture. So it's not like I could just get down any further. Or plus, since he was kind of like sitting in between the two sponges, looking straight up or kind of straight up, it's, you know, you don't, I don't know, I didn't want to get a side shot of him. This was in another shallow dive. This was funny because I approached this. This is basically an old tire that's covered up with coral by now, and it's covered in sand. And I was just really going for the gobies. And as I approached this to try to take as close as I could to take the picture of the gobies and trying to get low, all of a sudden I see this spotted moray peeking at me from underneath it. And all he did was just that. He just peeked at me. I happened to take a couple shots of it and then it disappeared. It just wanted no part of me. He's just trying to see who was coming towards his home. This was a night dive on the Divi's in Calabas Reef, in the House Reef. I did a night dive, just my wife and I took Jane with me, and just the two of us. We separated from everybody, and we just were swimming around, and she spotted the spotted moray, you know, hunting. So she shined her light all over it, and I'm like pushing her hand away to move the light away so that I could try to take a picture of it before he decided to run and hide somewhere because of all the lighting. But again, we were swimming and probably, you know, it's shooting straight down at it almost. So it's not a great shot in that sense. Oh, this is one of my favorite. On the same night dive, we turned the dive around and me and her are coming back and I'm leading it, and off the corner of my eye with the solo light is the only thing I had on at the moment over the camera, I see these octopus hunting. He was out hunting. The minute I hit him with a light, he flattened out like this, trying to hide, trying to make himself disappear. So I basically turned my light off, just put my DS 160s have a focus light on them. So I turned that so I could get the focus of them, of the fish, I mean, of the octopus. And then I just took a couple pictures of him and then let him be. But this was pretty cool to see and notice how all of a sudden he was getting like little bumps and everything else. He was trying to mimic the sand and try to hide. But with that color, he wasn't about to hide from me. Plus, I already seen him.
Was that still at f/22? Because it looked like you had a lot of focus there.
Yeah, Ellen. I shot the whole trip. I shot at f/22. I never moved it. I thought I wanted the depth. I've since have switched, and I've been shooting on f/16 now. But yeah, that was. I mean, the strobe did his job. I mean, the strobe is on TTL, so it really hit it with light.
Louis, which camera? What camera do you use?
I'm using a Canon EOS 6D Mark II.
6D Mark II. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. This green frogfish. This guy was even harder. Actually, this is, I think, the one that was by the pin. Matt, was this the one that was by the pin? Do you remember?
It looks like the one to me.
Yeah. This was when we went to the Helma Hooker, Matt had been there with the other boat the day before or 2 days before, and I mentioned that to the right of the mooring pin there was this coral head and there was a frogfish. So when we went to the Hilma Hooker, I basically, instead of going to the wreck, since I had already done it the year before, I looked at our dive master and my wife, and I said, I'm going the other way. And when looking for this guy, then everybody appeared real quick right behind me. I don't know how. They'll figure it out. But again, this guy was definitely surrounded by coral. You could not get any lower with him. Another banded coral shrimp. In this one, I did get finally eye level with him because he was on a wall. So I was able to get the eye to the, with my camera, with the center of the camera and stuff. So it's a little better in that sense. Obviously, the shrimp itself, the arm, and for the most part, his eye is still in focus while the rest comes out of focus, obviously in the foreground and stuff. Our crab, on this one, I definitely, again, it was on a wall, so I was able to get down, and one of the things that I never really noticed on them is the fact that their claws are green or are blue, and that's something I probably hadn't noticed before, and I've taken pictures of them before, so it was kind of neat to, when you put it in the computer and you're finally really looking at it and you see, huh, there was a lot of color in there that I didn't realize. Again, like I said earlier, I mean, purple barrel sponges, I look on all of them, and this one I happened to look, and there's an arrow crab, and I think that's a goby down there, but couldn't get him. It was small enough that I could not get the focus light to go in there without moving the camera and not being able to get the picture. So I was a little bit of a get it as close as I could and hope that there's enough light from the strobe hitting the interior to make it come through for me. Another giant anemone, in this one, I managed to get all the little squat anemone shrimps. They basically, I remember trying to get them the year before when we went there, but because I was using video lights, the heat of the video light makes them go away. They hide. It's at any movement, so you have to really approach it really slow, and that's one thing I kind of learned about that. So I was kind of like, when I came up to this one, I moved about as slow as I could, and then just waited for them to come back so that I could try to get them in the picture. There's another red lip blenny. This was in another site. Obviously I didn't try to get any closer to him after the first experience, so I'm not low enough because there's corals and stuff, and they're usually hiding a little bit down, so it kind of made it a little bit more difficult. But I like the fact that you can see its lip, you can see the red eyebrow, and if it wasn't, and kind of like the feathery nostrils or whatever you want to call them in front.
One thing, Becca, if I could, just my experience shooting the red lip blenny, they stay in one spot and then they take off. If you watch them and stay with them for a little bit, they follow this. Usually, they follow the same pattern. So they may go, from one spot on a rock or a piece of coral to another, to another, to another, and then they repeat the same thing over and over and over again. So once you watch that, then you wait for them to come to point number 2 or point number 3, and then you get a shot of them. Like sometimes,
Yeah, so at least you could learn their pattern.
Yeah,
and at least try to find the better spot to get the better shot, and just wait for them and hope that they do repeat it after all, like you said.
because they are skittish.
Oh, yeah. This green sea turtle was swimming along and everybody was going turtle, 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 and turn around. And now I got the 100 millimeter macro. Yes, I can try to, but I mean, this was kind of me swimming backwards, trying to make sure that I could get at least some of it in the frame, and trying to manually focus because it didn't like focusing onto the water column as much. And this was the other one that everybody was looking at in the same, but this one was just laying in between the soft coral, trying to rest. So a lot of people had already been or were still hanging around all over it. So I just came in and tried not to I didn't even bother getting low enough or anything. I just took a quick shot and got out of there because I didn't want to keep bothering the animal at this point. And everybody was in there, all 20 people in the boat. So it's kind of like a little too much, I thought. This is tilefish. We were in the shallows, and it was hanging out outside of its burrow. It was kind of neat to see it actually, and some more of them on another trip, on the following trip that we did to Little Cayman, and really got to observe them really digging into burrows and going in the holes, and it was kind of neat to learn more about them. But this was definitely in Bonaire, and pretty good picture, I thought, of them. And then for my last picture, we put the coral tree at the divvy. We put a new tag on it. The whole group went. We jumped out, and again, I have the 100 millimeter lens. This is about as good as I could get, and everybody was moving around, so there was sand flying everywhere. But
That's great.
There was a lot of silt there when we were installing that.
oh yes, way too much.
But nice to do. Very nice to do. Well, great pictures, Luis. Very, very nice.
Those are some great pictures. So I have a question.
Yes.
Where were you, like, as far as your flat port? How far away? Like the brown chromis. It seemed like you were a little further away for that shot. Like how close and how far could you get while still keeping your focus?
You can get pretty far and refocus. Everything's going to get small. I mean, this is a full frame camera.
Okay.
So, so it's like in the old 35 millimeters. So obviously it's not, things are going to look a lot smaller unless you can get close. Like you said, the closest I can get is about 9 inches
Okay.
with a flat port.
That's not bad.
Yeah, no, for the small stuff is not too bad, but that's definitely one of the things that I've had to learn. Because going from a TG where you can get as you know, you can get right within about an inch or even almost touching the animal, to like, yeah, no, too close. Now we can't focus.
Would you think about a different lens, like a zoom for another trip?
I actually bought an 8 to 15 millimeter lens, zoom lens, and I did buy a compact 8-inch dome port to try for bigger stuff. Just have not even bothered taking it out yet, because right now up here I'm just mainly looking for nudibranchs. So it's like, yeah, I'm not going to use a dome port right now.
Great shots. Great
Thank
shots.
you.
You shoot
Yeah.
raw or do you shoot JPEG or what else, Luis?
No, I shoot everything in RAW, and then I upload it or download it to my computer, and then use Lightroom to process it.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning Lightroom too.
Luis, about the Lightroom, you said your scent was a little bit bluish.
Yes.
Did you try to use saturation tool?
No, I have not.
Okay, this is a good tool when you place a dot. You select first saturation tool, then you place a dot on a color you want to lower the hue of, and then you just push it down on your trackpad, and it's actually lowers the down your let's say if it's too blue, it will diminish the blue. If it's too red, it will get lower the reds. Try it. I think you will might find
Yeah.
it very useful.
Thanks. I'll definitely try that. Because there are some in other photos that I have from taking in other trips that I have the same issue. I just kind of keep fighting I've tried masking, but that's a little hard to do.
It's always hard to shoot the white sand, and as Andy said, it's no matter how much you far you push the strobes far away, it's still blown out. But I found very useful if it's too much of a color, the specific color, let's say blue. The
Mhm.
only problem is if your fish or your subject has a blue as well. If you don't separate it, it will get the blues on the
Right.
as well.
But also in Lightroom, it doesn't always work with every subject, but you could select background, and that may just get the sand and not the
Yeah.
subject. And when in
That's
that
right.
case, then lower the blue, or remove some of the blue, and that would
I was
help.
about to say the masking tools would actually help a lot with that. That way you do the saturation of the background separate from the fish.
Right. Yeah, instead of globally doing it.
Andy,
Yeah.
don't you think the first what he needs to do is actually to select what is the subject, what is the background? Because sometimes the Lightroom does not recognize what's the subject, what's the
Right. That's why I'm saying it may not work in all of them, but it's worth a try just to see what it does with background or subject and then reverse or whatever. See if it can work.
Yeah, it's
I'm
usual.
gonna jump in and ask, did you do a white balance on the sand?
Yes, I
Okay,
did.
and
And that
didn't
actually
do it.
blew it out a little more.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that I'm still learning to use it because I haven't shot raw until I basically started really taking underwater photography. Before that, above anything I've taken, it was in a JPEG or something like that. So
But Louise,
it's kind of a whole learning curve. I get too many learning curves going on at the same time.
Luis, when you actually take that shot, do you see the blue or not?
No.
So that it's a shadow that comes out blue because of the light configuration. Is that what you're? And so
Yeah.
you actually see it in the camera itself at the time.
Yeah, you don't, if you look in the screen of the camera, when you take the picture, you won't notice that blue. I think it's more,
And you're shooting raw, so
yeah,
that all is a whole different thing.
right.
For fun, you want to send a picture out to all of us and we'll have at it.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, we used to do that. Fix, people would send in photos and we would take
Yep.
I remember that.
no, you gotta show what you did. You should use it as a training aids,
Mhm.
teach you to fish.
Right.
Right.
I'll have to use my sophisticated photo from Mac to work on it. That's all I can do.
All right. All right. Well,
One other comment, I think you doth protest too much about the poor quality of your photos. I thought they were great.
yeah.
Yes.
I am the biggest
I agree.
critic of myself, okay? When it comes to this.
The thing I liked the most, actually, Luis, was the fact that you were able to even make the shots.
Mm.
Because a lot of those animals, when I try to shoot them, are so skittish, they just don't stay put. And I'm usually with a group that's moving much faster than I am, and I can't stay too long. And so I miss the shots. And the fact that you were able to take the shots and actually realize the shot in any way, shape, or form was a home run for me. I mean, if I'd made that shot, I'd been
Yeah.
bearing the torch.
But
I'm usually in the back of the group, lagging
Mm-hmm.
way behind. Matt knows this. And I'm just taking my time. I mean, I know they're going to come back my way. And what I did realize, Robin, that's why I made a comment about it earlier, was with when I tried before with the Peterson shrimp and even the squat anemone shrimp with the video light, the heat from the light makes them disappear. So
Yep.
I found that the strobe is so much easier in that sense, because if you move slowly enough and you get there and they're there, it's just a momentary shot and they don't have the time to hide on you.
Yeah,
it's
that's
not only
absolutely
just,
true.
well, it's not just the heat from the light, just that constant light is
Yeah.
going to make these critters just run for the hills.
That's
you know?
right. But you know something else that happens if you wait long enough? Like I'm thinking of like Clark's anemones and so forth, and especially if you get a school of them, they'll all dash away with the heat. But if you just sit there and wait, eventually they come back and they stick their noses out, and you can get some great shots even with your video cam lights. I've been able to take some very nice shots just waiting. I was telling Andy, I was telling you all about the Sandlands last summer was as a classic case where I just waited and waited, and if you can wait long enough on a shore dive, it's easy with a guy who's not going to take off on you. With a buddy who won't take off on you. If you can wait long enough, they'll stay there. A couple of them will stay there, and you can take the shots. So I wanted to ask: are those squat shrimps in the giant anemone were red? The ones that I saw in Bonaire last May were black. Did you see any black ones, or were they all red?
No, I didn't see any black ones. The only ones I've seen is the reddish or orangey, whatever color you want to call it, with the white.
I wonder if it's because my video cam lights flooded out the rest of the color. It could be. I don't know. I was just curious. Mine all came out black and white. That's why I wanted to know. I'll send you one so you can see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, Luis, thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Nice job, Luis.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you, Luis. Great
Thank you.
photos.
So now we move to the magical world of AI. So Daryl has offered to do a presentation on, give us a little bit of the background. And because AI is now prevalent in all sorts of different software. So it's some of the examples that he'll be showing us to be inexpensive ways to utilize it, and others that are a little more complicated. But I'm sure I'm with all of you that we're both eager to see what AI has to offer. So, Daryl, I give you the floor.
Okay, give me a quick moment here.
Sure. And while you're doing that, if I can continue one more thing with that strobe and the sand business that I started off with. So those of you that are shooting TTL with your strobes and you're burning out the sand, dial down the strobe. So cut the power down on the strobe because again, you can't just back up the strobe or move it further away. If it's manual, you could, but otherwise, if you are using TTL, then somewhere on your strobe there should be a dial where you can just dial it down a little bit. Start off with a half weight or a quarter power, and that should help.
But wouldn't that only work if you're using manual? I mean, if you're on TTL, it's just going to keep going longer to get the right amount of light.
Mine, it definitely cuts down the power. Maybe it's just maybe not all the strobes are the same like that, but I know on mine I keep dialing it from one end to the other. I get 4 different settings that I could move. The numbers don't relate to anything that I understand because they're not the standard f-stops or anything. So but all I know is that I'm reducing the power and increasing the power. And I'm still on TTL. So anyway, Daryl, if you're
Yep, gonna give this a try.
sure, eagerly.
Zoom is a pain in the ass.
It is, it is.
Okay. So hopefully you're seeing the first slide here.
Yep.
Okay. So presentation is about just the impact of artificial intelligence on photo editing. Now,
Daryl, I'm sorry to interrupt. Are you a real Daryl or it's an AI creation?
I am just an avatar.
Yeah.
But I'm
Okay.
gonna keep my camera off for now, just in case there's any bandwidth issues. So before I get started, let me just say, portions of this presentation's work actually created within AI, but it was all edited by a lonely human. So hopefully Zoom will not consume all the resources in the world and allow me to advance the slide. There we go. Okay. So first of all, I'm not going to try to describe artificial intelligence. It's basically the computer making decisions for you and, being used as a tool to help understand what you're doing and provide additional assistance. We'll leave it at that. But unfortunately, AI has become a huge marketing term these days. So you're hearing it everywhere. And everything has AI, it seems like, all of a sudden, because this past year, it just kind of started to blossom, and it's actually in the phase that it's rapidly expanding, and I'll quickly go through some of that stuff. Due to this, it is a fascinating topic. Justified or not, of course, there's a lot of people that get very scared of AI, but the thing to keep in mind is that what we have today is not a general AI. Generally, as depicted in pop culture, sci-fi, stuff like that. What we have is an AI that is using brute force methods and other pre-trained mechanisms to get material, written photograph pictures to a set standard under something that has attributes that is considered acceptable. Those attributes can change multiple variables on the way that this works. I spent a whole week just working with Microsoft on AI a couple of months ago. Now, AI, the principles of AI have been around digital photography for decades. A lot of people know it as face recognition on cameras. That is a form of AI. AI is also known as machine learning. And you'll hear a couple of buzzwords, which I'll get to. So the photograph here is actually AI generated, just to get an idea of just how what the photographs can look like. And I'll get into the difference between generated and actually, its use in editing. So once again, quickly evolving. Anything I say could be outdated as soon as I say it. The fun thing about that, I will try to make this talk as down to earth, not technical at all. You could very easily get into the weeds and get into technical stuff, but I'm trying to keep this concentrated on just the photography, just post editing, post-production editing. Now, once again, I'm not going to do doom and gloom for the underwater photographer. It's a useful tool, and that's the way we need to look at it. This image here is actually from a movie called AI, made by Spielberg, I believe. This is a great, I think that looks like awesome diving. Anyway, like any tool, making automatic decisions, especially underwater in a different environment, temperance is required. Sometimes it makes inappropriate decisions for us also, because it's still in our learning phase. You can do funny things with AI. This is a seal/diver that I found on a scuba diving webpage that was talking about AI. So I thought this was kind of interesting. Now, once again, AI is a tool. It be used for making alterations, decisions about images based on pre-taught information or examples that are given to it, which are based on, once again, attributes of what an acceptable image is. Now, there's three different ways AI is being used right now. First one is able to recognize subjects, making determinations, and very much like the auto feature that we've had in applications for a long time. But it's now when you click auto, it's doing a lot more to understand the photograph. And we'll get in. And quick example. This is what you would normally see if you're using the auto feature, let's say in Lightroom, and you're fixing the color balance, and then the AI is like, well, this is coral, it should look like this, and actually adding some vibrance to the colors. So it's more than just one thing occurring at a time. Now, there's also a portion of AI that is able to fabricate new content based upon the existing content in the photograph. This has been around for a couple of years, usually in Adobe Photoshop has content-aware editions. So in other words, the AI can actually create the rest of the coral reef in this middle example. And then the last one, which is the one that gets the most press, of course, is an AI can generate something completely new. Based on its own imagination on what a nudibranch could look like. It's photorealistic sitting on a coral, which is exactly what I told the AI to generate this photograph. It was generated just a day ago for me, using actually Microsoft's AI. And all I had to do is make a photorealistic photograph of a nudibranch sitting on coral, and that's all it needed to generate this. Now, of course, it doesn't have a general idea of what a real photograph looked like, so it went a little off the rails on some of the attributes of this poor nudibranch, but it's really cool looking. But given time, AIs will be able to very easily generate images that look very much like a photograph that was being taken, as they better understand what that should look like. Okay, so as I just said, AI generators get a lot of the headlines, but AI photo editors have been developing in the background for the last 10 years. This is not new to photo editing. Many of these things work on machine learning, which you will hear the buzzword content awareness a lot within applications. And like the image generators that did that fun little nudibranch, these machine learning is very iterative. So you're seeing small incremental changes in AI image editing features over a span of time. Now, as I said, this is not new. So basically, Photoshop's content-aware fill was actually started to be added in 2010, more than 10 years ago. Then the first AI-powered, what Adobe's calling neural filters, which gets into that more AI imagination used for editing, actually was launched in 2020. 2020 is an interesting time because that's actually when researchers actually started to use AI to not only edit photographs in their own programs, but actually use it for counting specimens. In this case here, this is a news clip from an article where they had an AI not only fix the photograph for better resolution, but then start counting how many organisms it saw in a photograph. Very much like a digital fish count. Now, to give an idea of the pace of advancement, let me just call out Adobe again, because their information is a little bit more available to us. So you'll see, and this is just in the last 3 years. So once a year, Adobe had been making small iterative changes to its AI stuff, but starting in 2023 to its current version, because the last major update was still November of 2023, you can see that it just blew up. You have noise capability, content aware, removal tools, masking tools, healing brush, adaptive presets. This is also when Lightroom actually added the ability to do video editing also, which we haven't really discussed a lot of, but it's able to help with a lot of the issues with moving from black to white, even in video now. And then because the AI can detect if it's a fish or not, it can actually start to note in the metadata of the files, this is a fish, this is the type of fish, and stuff like that. You're starting to see that pop up. Okay, so let me just bring it back down to what the AI can do at the moment. So you can upscale, sharpen low resolution blurry images. You can detect if it's a portrait or landscape and make certain editing suggestions. You can cut the subject out from the background. We've seen that. A lot of our phones are now able to do that quite easily because the AI is now more accessible for our phones, and we'll start to see that show up in other devices. You're able to match lighting with the rest of the image. Or you could, as we're talking about with the goby or jawfish, you can actually make it dissimilar if you want to bring the subject out, because you have that ability of detecting the subject a lot more easily. You can also make automatic adjustments to light levels, contrast, color, based upon that. And I already touched on black and white photos. So let me. Now, here's one big issue: is AI is still very process intensive, because a lot of the aspects of AI is brute force, where it literally will take you what you asked and it'll spin out a million different ways of doing it, and then compare them to what is been defined as the proper type of output, and then throw the rest of them away. Brute force, a lot of computing going on. A lot of the best AIs are actually using huge data centers. I remember I was dealing with Microsoft and looking at theirs, and it's amazing. It's like now the half of the capability is now considered the second largest supercomputer in the world or something like that. It's just half of what they have right now. Photoshop, once again, has a lot of stuff in it. I said Photoshop in here, but it's actually Lightroom also. The costs are basically subscription-based or use-based for a lot of the AI tools. $120 for Lightroom and Photoshop per year. Microsoft Copilot is not really a photo editor, but they're slowly, the ability to edit photos is being built into a lot of their applications through they call everything Copilot, just Microsoft marketing. But there's other services out there. Luminaire Neo is a big one out there. For about $10 a month, you can get, I think, 30 to 60 uses of their AI to fix your photos. And I know that sounds weird, but that's just the way that they're working on it.
What could you get? I didn't understand that, Daryl. You could get 30 to 60 what?
You get, when you buy these subscriptions for a lot of these AIs, and I'll actually show this in just a minute, they limit you in how often you can use the AI.
Oh.
And this is something I'm going to show, because it's just one of those things, is like, getting these things for when you get back on a trip, it sounds awesome. I can go in, the AI will make it much easier. But then you look into the thing and they're like, well, you can only they only allow you to edit 60 photos a week or something like that. There's weird stuff in there because their infrastructure behind the product is not not huge. They can only handle so much load at a time, and that's really what it is. And I'll see if I can cover that. One of the web pages I'm going to bring up. But the last one here is actually the cheapest AI-based solution, Pixlr. And I'll show that in just a minute. But as far as free solutions, we've talked about Darktable, GIMP being the alternative to Photoshop. There are free plugins that will link to AI services. They're getting better, but not as much as the ones that are pay per use that I was just discussing. Maybe we can talk about those in the future. I just didn't want to branch too far off. So I'm going to quickly jump out of PowerPoint, find my mouse again, because I have 3 monitors in front of me. Okay, so this is the web editing tool from Pixlr. Okay, now they have 2 editing tools. One is a very robust with a bunch of tools, and then they have an express one. This is the express one. So you can just go AI tools, and you have all your tools you can apply to the image. Such as removing a subject, removing the background, making the thing super sharp. And when I say like remove noise. So in this case here, I can apply the thing, but they have a counter right here. 17. I have 17 uses left. Now this is 17 uses left because I'm in here as a free. But if you were to pay for the thing, let's see. This is another site. This is actually the more expensive one. And see if I can actually pricing. Okay, so this one's not actually showing it. The Pixlr one actually was very much on how many, and unfortunately I had closed it. Okay, so here you go. For this subscription, which is $1 a month, you can get 80 monthly AI uses of those tools. For their premium at $5 a month, you can get 1,000 monthly. You can use their AI 1,000 times. So that's what I was talking about.
Now, Daryl, is that you say 1,000 times? Is that 1,000 steps or 1,000 images?
You can use the tool. You can use one of the AI tools 1,000 times. So you might use 5 AI tools in one photograph.
Okay.
So that's just kind of one oddball thing I wanted to point out, in case you want to use these web tools, which are quite powerful. In this case here, the Pixlr is a very nice one because you can get in there and try a free little subscription, and they give you about 20 times to play with the tools and see exactly what you can do with them. The tools, because they're running off of their server and stuff, do take a little bit to run. Some of these things you could hardly tell what it did. It's the only thing I can state, but let me continue on, because I want to have time to do some more in-depth demonstrations using Lightroom. Okay. And where did my presentation go? Okay. Okay, so. And I just did the web demo. I forgot I have this slide in there. I could have done that. And image didn't load anyways. Anyway, I'll list these two AI web editors people, in case people want to look at them. But I do want to get to doing some quick Lightroom demos. So what I wanted to show, and I'm going to stick to just Lightroom. I thought about doing Photoshop, but then I would quickly run over time. This is just so many tools in there. I wanted to show content. Need a drink. Content aware healing brush. I want to show the selective masking, and then I want to talk about how their color curves and denoise function. Now, oops, the wrong key. So, wish me luck. Lab demos are hard, but I do want to say that if you want better demo, blatant plug, Adobe Lightroom professional training videos. Ask Erin. She last year, towards the end of last year, she did a series starring AI Good or Evil. You can do. I'll put the link here to her video. You do have to pay for it. It's like $21, but she gets a lot more into depth on the tools and stuff and how to use them, including the masking if you want to fix, color issues in the background over your subject and stuff like that. So that's something I'd recommend, because I'm not going to be able to do a presentation or a demonstration as easily as she could as a professional. So,
Yeah. Erin will be back at Sea Rovers in 2025, by the way.
oh, cool. Okay, let me just give a quick minute for Lightroom to come back up. Okay, so I picked this starfish, because it didn't move. But also there was a couple of quick things that we could use it for a demonstration for. The first one is the healing brush. Actually, just in case I'm wrong, I actually have these pre-done here. So let's just see if it'll. Allow me to get in there. Okay, so what I wanted to use a healing brush for is very much, a lot of times we take photographs, and especially here in New England, we're taking photographs and we have a little bit of surge going on. And when you take that photograph, everything looks good, but unfortunately a piece of seaweed, went in, covered the subject a little bit, which is what we're seeing right here. Boy, I talk a lot. So the healing brush, if I can actually get it to come up here, you have the same three tools, but in this case here, we would do a removal brush. And there's the content aware removal brush. And what that looks like is you would basically, like any brush, I would do it, and then I would tell it a subject of a portion of the animal that is like it, something to use as a reference. So what you actually get, I'm going to step up through here. This is about the only way I can stop the gremlins from getting in place. As I use a healing brush, you'll actually see it to start to And of course, I'm using as I'm using the brush, I'm actually using different parts of the animal to say, you use this as a reference. And my computer is being a little slow here because of, for some reason, Zoom was taking a bunch of resources and slowing things down. Anyway, you get an idea of exactly how you could use a healing brush. You could literally patch that up because it can use the other parts of the subject as a reference because it's understand the content of it. Okay, so now let's talk about masking. Okay, so all the masking tools are now content aware AI in Lightroom. So if I said I wanted to use the background here and separate out the background, all I would need to do is basically just click the background and it'll start analyzing the photograph for what that background looks like. And you'd actually see the mask. In this case, the red is what it selected. And so now I have a mask for just the background and I can apply anything I want to that. The red is just the overlay, of course, but it really hasn't changed. So I can turn that off. And then you'll actually see that if I mess with the exposure, it's only affecting the background. Oops, and I can go a little bit too far. And okay. So let's say I want to pick up the subject now. So, and I want to do the separate, do a mask for just the subject. You can actually, I can create a new mask. Once again, this is running a little slower. Come on. Now it's going to detect the subject, not the background. Now you can also use the mask you used for the background and just tell it to use an inverse for that too. Okay, so now you see it actually picked out the whole starfish, including any feathering around the sides. And if I turn off the red highlighting, you can see that it picked up the entire starfish. Yep, there he is. The red highlighting threw me for a while because the starfish is actually red, and I'm like, I had to look at it in a better monitor. But now I can actually adjust the highlighting on just that mask and see it actually see the mask 2, mask 1. So now I can deal with them independently. I can punch up the vibrance or saturation on just that subject. I have all the basic controls. I never had to use a stylus or a mouse to cut the subject out of the photograph. Of course, that really depends on just how much the subject stands out from the background. In this case, I was fairly lucky with the starfish. Okay. See if I can get into one cool thing I do want to show here is sometimes you actually can do better instead of manipulating it, trying to do everything individually. You can actually just manipulate the color curve of the photograph to try to find a balance. Oops, what did I do? Oh. Okay, well, a little farther than I probably wanted it. Okay, well, that's just to mostly have shown the masking, but you get a lot of power just out of the ability to do the masking, and then you can use the tools independently that you've already learned in Lightroom. So why don't I just jump back to my presentation at this point, because I'm starting to run out of time. If they will even start. Don't you love it? There you go. Oh, it's start me at the beginning again. There we go. Oh, and once again, it started me near the beginning, even though I said current slide. So let me just tap through. Okay. So needless to say, near future is that there is no doubt that the features of AI will become more prevalent and much cheaper, easier to access. We've already seen the machine learning, the complex AI training assistance is making it into smartphones, computers. Actually, I think even Microsoft says that they have their next version of Windows is going to have a lot more AI built into it, and it's actually going to make more computers obsolete quicker. But we're also going to be seeing more of this AI functionality make it into our cameras. Mostly this point and shoot camera type of cameras, probably. If you've seen my prior conversations, you know that I've been very interested in using smartphones for underwater photography, not only because they have multiple lenses, therefore I could take both a close-up and a wide-angle picture of the subject at the exact same time, and then using AI to merge them, which is something I'm still working on. But you also get access to some of the AI functionality that can be done directly on certain smartphones right now. So you're probably going to start to see more photography moving in that direction, where the processor in your camera is much more like a smartphone type experience. Now, however, with all this technology, all these AI tools, it all starts with the diver taking a decent photograph in the first place. No AI or technology is going to take that away from the diver, right? No, we'll see. So this, of course, is a robot diver. But, the thing is that I was only able to show a little bit of this stuff. I was trying to get Photoshop to start up, but it kept shutting down on me every time I use Zoom for some reason. They're hitting each other from on my system. But there is many more features in Photoshop that can be seen. Some of our members have actually shown some of those content awareness things in Photoshop in the past. They're getting much more powerful, much more apt to understand the actual subject of photographs and make better decisions to help us. But once again, you know, the AI as is being developed is really to handle the 90% of use out there, which is going to be terrestrial photography, not underwater photography. So you still have to be, as underwater photographers, very aware of what these tools are doing, because they might make decisions that are not the best for underwater. And that's kind of one of my concerns with that. I haven't yet run into it, an AI making a decision that was contrary to what I really needed for photographs, but it is still fairly early, considering a lot of these features have only been added to products like Lightroom in the past year, 12 months.
Daryl, do you think that Final Cut Pro will have has as many of these features as Lightroom does?
Interesting you asked that. Apple is committed to their own AI. They do plan to add AI to a lot of their applications. You know, Adobe Premiere has a lot of AI functionality coming. Final Cut Pro is kind of the Mac equivalent for a lot of people, especially if they don't want to pay Adobe's prices or deal with Adobe's licensing. So I do think you're going to see AI functionality come into that.
No. I was trying to figure out which one I should buy. I'm doing pretty well with photos, but I'm thinking that some of this stuff might solve some of the problems that I can't resolve myself with photo.
Well, whenever the AI is making decisions to help you, you can still do the same thing the AI is doing. Okay, it's not like giving you extra ability to do stuff, but it is giving you easier to understand controls and making it easier to do complex things.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my PowerPoint is not allowing me to advance past this slide or continue on. These are the gremlins. Let's see if nope. Okay, well, anyway, I just had one slide after this, so it was basically just questions. You know, I don't know if I can answer a lot of questions. I wasn't able to show all the demonstrations I really wanted to, just due to, maybe it's time for a new laptop, just due to resource issues here.
You know, I can cut in for a second, Daryl. We won't have time for too many questions because it's already 8:20, and I know Matt Everett has a quick bit of information to give everyone, and then Matt Tremblay is on for the Malaysia.
Okay, no problem.
So if there's any, say a question, I hate to do this to you, Daryl, but we're just running a little low on time.
Let's just move forward.
Hey, Andy, I do have a quick comment. This is Michael Leach. I'm not Virginia, but I'm on her iPad. So the AI stuff takes a tremendous amount of memory from your computer. So you can lock up Lightroom and your computer if you put too many masks and too many heals in there, in particular in Lightroom. So just keep that in mind.
Yes, that was actually the reason why Photoshop was not starting on me. Michael
knows from experience.
Yep.
So what memory do you, how much memory do you, how much RAM do you need to run that without it, what do you call it, buffering on you and driving you nuts?
So it's not easy to answer that because it depends on a lot of factors. So if you, let's just say, have 3 masks and you've done 20 heels, you're going to be fine probably with 8 RAM or 12 RAM. If you get up to 20 masks and 100 heels in Lightroom, then you're probably gonna, you'll hit a point where it will not take another change. I've done it. So, and then you really need to go to Photoshop because Photoshop is more destructive and therefore you're not just piling all these things into your memory. At least that's the way I understand it. So it's not an easy answer, but the more powerful your computer and the more RAM you have, the more you'll be able to do.
Yeah, I've got maxed out on mine, so I think I'd be all right.
Yeah, my Lightroom typically is taking 2 to 3 gigabytes of memory. But it does go up there as I'm using certain tools.
I have 128 gigabytes of mine.
Oh yeah,
But you don't need that because there's swapping and that's just way another discussion.
Matt Everett, could you?
Yeah, I can jump in real quick. So before other Matt presents, we had talked at the last meeting a little bit of doing a themed meeting. Last year we had our Bonaire night, and then the last meeting back in January, we're talking a little bit more about doing another themed meeting. So I am about to post a link in the chat for this Zoom that you guys can all click on. It's a Google form, Google response thing that has 2 different sections. One is going to be location based and the other is going to be animal based. And we can all vote on type of presentation that we would like to contribute to. Our next meeting in March is going to be a location based meeting. So whatever the winning vote of this poll is going to be the theme of our next meeting. We also have later on in the year, I believe in July, is going to be an animal themed night. So the winning animal of the poll that I'm posting right now is going to be the theme of that. The key I just want to make sure everyone knows is whatever you are answering, please only answer with things you can contribute to, not things you would like to see. So I would love to see a presentation about the Maldives. I've never been there, so I'm not allowed to vote for the Maldives. Please only vote for things you can contribute to. And whatever the winning vote is, if you voted for that, I would like you to email the store and reach out to me, letting me know that you voted for that and you are going to help present at the next meeting. I don't want to have a bunch of people vote for whatever location because they think it's cool, and then we have one presenter next meeting. I want people to vote for things they can positively contribute to. So again, our next meeting in March is going to be location based. It's going to be an open meeting. If we have more than 3 presenters, that is no problem. We could have as many presenters as we would like, but it's all about maybe techniques unique to that area, animals unique to that area, anything that is special to that location that we can all contribute to. And same thing with that animal-based presentation that we'll be having later in the year. One of the animals I put on there are lobsters, whether they have claws or they're the spiny lobsters. Just we can be having an open discussion and sharing of images of ways we approach the subject, ways we take the different pictures, what settings we find best. So we're just trying to have some unique, different meetings this year. So again, a location-based one for next month, and then later on in the year, we'll do an animal-based one. So I posted that link in the chat of the group. If you guys should be able to all click on that link, it should take 30 seconds to a minute to just choose your selections there, and then I'll automatically be able to get those results. After Matt Tremblay finishes his next presentation, I'll announce what our 2 winners are for the location and animal. And then, like I said, if you're voting for that location based, please reach out to me at the store email so we can coordinate presenting at the next meeting.
Okay.
I have a quick question. I
Yes.
see I don't know if I'm looking at the right thing. It says Undersea Divers and there's just a link. Is that it?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, before we begin with Matt Tremblay's Malaysia presentation, I want to thank Daryl. Daryl, it was a great presentation. Really was. I know you weren't happy.
Sorry, I
with-
couldn't do more.
I know, but it's the nature of that beast. You know, trying to do something, trying to stretch the envelope a little bit. But it was terrific, very informative, and very good. Now, Matt Tremblay is talking about a subject that we have not heard from this area before. And you know, Malaysia, it's in that general area, Indonesia, and near the Philippines. The Philippines and Indonesia get a lot of they spend a lot of money on advertising, and they have quite a big. It's a big business. Malaysia it hasn't been able to compete, but I've heard wonderful things. I was telling Matt today or yesterday that I have a friend of mine who's living there now, and he's been hounding me to come to go to Malaysia. He said it's terrific. So with that, Matt, I turn Malaysia over to you.
As I was saying, here is Indonesia, and Malaysia is right above it. And Thailand is right above Malaysia. So the capital of Malaysia is Kuala Lumpur. In order to get to Kuala Lumpur, it was an Emirates flight from Boston to Dubai. That was about 12 hours. And then a 7-hour flight from Dubai to Kuala Lumpur. From there, it was just changing flights. I believe it was Philippines Airlines. It was about a 3-hour flight to Tawai, which is like right here. And then it was an hour bus transfer to Semporna, and then a 45-minute boat ride to Mabul Island, which Mabul, Sipadan, and Kapalai are like right here. You can't see them on the map, but it may sound like a lot of travel and a lot of headaches, but the resort, when you book through the resort, they take care of the transfers, the ground transfers and the water transfers. So basically you're only booking the flights, and as soon as you land, they pick you up, they bring you to Semporna, and then they bring you by boat to the resort you're staying at. Kapalai and Sipadan, all the resorts are pretty much on Mabul with the exception of one on Kapalai. Sipadan does not have any resorts. The only thing on it is a ranger station. It's a protected marine park all around it, and the Malaysian government realized early on how much of a gem it is to dive there. So they only issue 120 permits a day, and all the resorts have an allotted amount. I believe each resort has like 12 a day. So how it works is if you book a week-long stay at any of the resorts, you're guaranteed to dive in Sipadan one day. But if you pay extra, you can dive as many times as you want. So I stayed on Mabul for 10 days, and I dove Sipadan 2 of the 10 days. I easily could have dove 10 out of the 10 days if I wanted to, but my setup is mostly geared towards macro. I'm not a big wide angle guy, so 2 days was fine for me at Sipadan. Let's see. So I believe, yep, I've got one photo here, topside. The resort I stayed at, Mabul Water Bungalows. It's all the there are very similar to the Maldives. They're kind of bungalows over the water. We did 3 boats a day, and then you could dive the house reef as much as you wanted. After that, I usually dove it. So these are humphead parrotfish. If you've never seen these before, they're everywhere in Sipadan. There's not a lot of places you can dive with big schools of them like this. As I said, I don't have the best setup to take pictures of these, but there were plenty of these. So if you have a better camera than I do for these, you could take some terrific pictures. But these are pretty freaky looking fish if you haven't seen them before. If you've just been to the Caribbean, the parrotfish there are actually a lot smaller, but these things are like 3-4 feet long. Yeah, and you can have all the pictures you want of them. There were hundreds of thousands of them when I was there. So let's see. So Sipidon is really known for its reefs. I went to Tubataha early last year in April, and I thought the reefs were going to be phenomenal, and they were decent, but a lot of dynamite fishing is going on there. And I thought the reefs in Sipidon were 1,000 times better than Tubataha. So just something to think about if you're planning a trip to South Pacific. Yeah, for anybody that hasn't been to the South Pacific, it's kind of like an IMAX theater. The Caribbean's like a regular movie theater, and the South Pacific's like an IMAX theater. Yep. So there are plenty of schools of fish, but the main thing with Sipidon is the turtles. I could not believe the amount of turtles that are all over the area. I'm not exaggerating. There were about, on one dive, 40 to 50 turtles on Turtle Patch, and it was a drift dive, and you just saw one turtle right after another. They would just swim up to you, and they have no fear of divers whatsoever because they see divers all the time, pretty much. So I just could not believe the sheer amount of turtles. Like if you dive like down in the Caribbean, you get excited when you see 1 or 2 or 3 turtles per dive. But yeah, it was pretty impressive to see like 40 turtles at a dive. But I didn't even take a lot of turtle pictures because you just get desensitized to them because there were so many turtles pretty much. But there's just all big schools of fish. The jacks were just incredible. You'd be swimming along, and then all of a sudden it felt like the sun was going down, and then you turn around and you realize it was just a cloud of jacks swimming next to you. It was just a giant walls of jacks. It was really, really impressive.
Oh, good shot there.
These are spadefish, and I think, yep, I got some of barracuda. Plenty of yellowfin barracuda and great barracuda. I didn't get very good shots of the great barracuda, but just giant schools of them by the hundreds to thousands. There's a banded sea snake. And I believe that's the extent of the Sipidon pictures I have. Most of the next ones are macro, so these are all in Mabul and Kapalai Islands. Here's a mantis shrimp, a peacock mantis shrimp. If you're looking for like composition and lighting and everything, I'm not really the person to talk to about that. I kind of just point the camera and take pictures. So I'm not really into setting up shots like some of you are, but the nudibranchs were just staggering. There were hundreds of different species of nudibranchs, and I was going to write them all down, but I realized many of you probably don't even care about the names of them. It's an octopus. There's a black spotted puffer. Another nudibranch. This is a banana nudibranch. This is about 1 foot long. Thought it was a sponge when I first saw it, but then you see the rhinophores right here, and yeah, that's a banana nudibranch. There's a seahorse. There was a dive site, Paradise 1 on Mabul, and there were like 6 seahorses in one area. There were just plenty of them. Bunch of different types too. There's a porcelain crab.
Yep.
Another nudibranch. A house reef alone at the resort had the most amount of nudibranchs. You could have just dove the house reef and you could have saw as many nudibranchs as you wanted. This is a blue dragon nudibranch. These are about 1 foot long, and Kapalai had tons of these. One site you could see dozens of them. There's a flatworm, and there were almost as many different species of flatworms as there were nudibranchs, pretty much. This is, I believe, a spiny scorpionfish or a devil scorpionfish, one or the other.
Wow.
Is a nudibranch here, the rhinophores right here. There's a pygmy seahorse. There was a fan on Mabul Island, one of the sites, I believe Ray Point, but there was like 5 of these on one fan. Very difficult to spot. You kind of have to wave at the fan to get them to move a little bit, but yeah, it's very hard to take pictures of too. This moray was the biggest moray I have ever seen. It was about 1.5 to 2 feet in diameter and more than 8 feet long. The dive master said he'd been working there for 23 years, and he said this thing has been here much longer than he's been working there. And he said people have actually seen it eat barracuda that have swim past it. So pretty unbelievable. The picture doesn't do it justice. I wouldn't get in front of it because how big the friggin' thing was. Here's a leaf scorpionfish. There's a bunch of different varieties of these. These are kind of hard to spot too. They tend to blend in pretty well. Another nudibranch. I probably could have done a presentation just on the nudibranchs alone. There were just so many different nudibranchs. For anybody that's been to the South Pacific, like the nudibranchs there are just, they're out of control. There's all different species. Here's one. Here are the rhinophores right here. There's another one. The rhinophores. And that was actually 3 different species. They look similar, but they're 3 different ones. Very difficult to spot if you don't really know what you're looking for. The key is to have a really good dive master that knows that can spot them, and then just take credit for them, I guess. So this is a flamboyant cuttlefish. This was the surprise of the trip. I was hoping to see one of these the entire trip, and ended up seeing 1 or 2 per day. I just could not believe how many of them there were, and they're very difficult to spot unless you see them. They walk along the ocean floor, and they're only a couple inches long, and they are poisonous, so you don't want to get too close to them. But yeah, it was pretty neat to see so many of these. I just totally didn't expect that. I'd been to the Philippines before and only saw one on like a 2-week trip, so it's pretty outrageous to see that many of these. There's another nudibranch. Clownfish. Another nudibranch. There's another nudibranch. The rhinophores right here. That was very difficult to spot and very rare species. The dive master was saying he only sees a couple of those a year, so it's a good find. Another nudibranch. This one looks like a Dalmatian, kind of. Another nudibranch. Kind of looks like a sea hare a little bit. Here's a ghost pipefish. These can be pretty difficult to spot too. There's some ornate ghost pipefishes, synchronized swimming, right next to each other. There's another flatworm. Another nudibranch. Another nudibranch. Here's a crab. I forget the species of this crab, but very small. Here are the eyes right here. The nudibranch. Here's a shrimp, very small. Here are the eyes. It's on a starfish. Here's a cuttlefish. These can blend in with their surroundings pretty good. They kind of look like predator a little bit, I think, but yeah, it can be very difficult to spot. The black ribbon eel. It's a squid. Here's a shrimp. Here's a white Pikachu nudibranch. I was hoping to see one of these. I've only ever seen the orange and black ones before in Tulamben and Komodo, but I was hoping to see one of these, and I'm glad I did. This is the only one I saw. Very difficult to spot them in the white sand, so you got to really keep your eyes open. There's a crocodile fish. There was a dive site in Mabul called Crocodile Avenue, and it was just littered with these things. There were dozens of them. I didn't really take too many pictures of these. It's another flatworm. This, I believe, is a cowfish or cow something variety. If somebody knows the name of anything, just feel free to blurt it out. The blue ribbon eel. There's a scorpion fish. There's a blue spotted stingray. This, I believe, is ablibis. I could be wrong, but that was what I was told it was. Don't quote me on that. There's a shrimp. There's a flatworm. Another flatworm. Nudibranch. There's a baby frogfish. Very angry baby frogfish. Another species. There's another nudibranch. Here are the rhinophores right here. This one was very small. Another nudibranch. There's a pipefish close up. Here it is zoomed out. It's a scorpion fish. Shrimp. School of spadefish. So these are all shrimp in this anemone bunch. So I believe I have one. Yeah, here's one of the shrimp. So there were lots of them. This is kind of similar to a blue dragon nudibranch, but it's not. It's a different species. There's a lot of species that look similar, but they're different. This is, I believe, a sea dragon variety. It's not a lembe sea dragon, but they're similar to a seahorse, but they're very thin. And there were a couple of different varieties of these. Here's another one. There's a moray. The flying gunnard. These are kind of difficult to get pictures of because they fly away from you as soon as you get close. It's another nudibranch. These are needlefish, I believe. They're all vertical. Little school of them. It's another flatworm. There's a hermit crab. Another nudibranch. Another nudibranch. There's a small crab. Another nudibranch. It's a small fish. Another nudibranch. There's a flatworm. There's a shrimp. There's a snake eel. Another variety, snake eel. Another shrimp. These kind of look like small crayfish, I guess. Another nudibranch. Another nudibranch. There's a frogfish. There was a dive site right next to the house reef called Froggy Lair, and there were just dozens of frogfish. What it was known for, pretty much. This is like a snail slash nudibranch. This fish is pretty well camouflaged, as you can see. Another nudibranch. There's a flatworm. This is a diamond filefish. Probably took like 50 pictures of this fish, and this was the best one. It's not even that good. They're just very difficult to get pictures of. This is a orangutan crab. Very hairy and angry. Another nudibranch. The moray. A bunch of shrimp. Another nudibranch. Another nudibranch. That's actually a different variety from the last one. They look similar. There's a mandarin fish. The best time to see these are right before dark. They come out to mate, and they're very difficult to get pictures of. And anybody that's done it before knows how difficult they are. They stop and then they sprint, and they stop and sprint, and as soon as you set up to take a picture of it, it moves away from you. So you kind of just have to point your camera in the general direction and just take a bunch of pictures till you get a good one, I guess. The black frogfish. Another nudibranch. The pipefish. This is I was told a spider crab variety, but I don't think that's what it is. So you can see it's kind of got like a ghost face, or like a pumpkin face, but it's just very, very freaky to see this thing. Still can't figure out exactly what it is. Another shrimp. So this is probably the most photographed frogfish in Malaysia. It's right at the house reef, about 20 feet down, and probably did like 10 to 15 dives on the house reef and saw this thing every single time. And there are people that just spend the whole dive just taking pictures of this frogfish. Here's a whipped coral shrimp. I believe this was during a night dive. Another nudibranch. I believe this is a skeleton shrimp on a starfish. There's a blenny. Another nudibranch. Small fish. Another nudibranch. This is, I believe, a corallimorph crab. Very difficult to spot. I only saw one of these. Probably swam by a bunch of them. I don't know, but I noticed the eye on this one. That's the only thing that gave it away. But this was on a night dive. It's the only one I realized what it was. So. This is a, I believe, Huena SP. I was told what it was, but it's basically a crab with an eelgrass piece on its head. It's very, very freaky. Yeah, I had to do a double take when I saw this. So I couldn't believe it was actually a critter.
How big was that?
Very small. Probably 1 to 2 inches. Yeah, but I would say 2 inches. This is a banded coral shrimp. There's plenty of these in the Caribbean, so a lot of people have probably seen these. This is a Donald Duck shrimp. I think they kind of look more like Donald Duck than actually shrimp for obvious reasons. And then last couple pictures here. Here's the blue ring octopus. I saw 2 of these. I was hoping to see one. And I'm glad I saw 2. And yeah, whenever somebody sees these, everybody just stops what they're doing and goes to see them. They kind of have rock star status. Only a few inches long, and you don't want to get too close of them. They are definitely poisonous, but pretty cool to see these. So
We got some great shots of it. Well,
yeah, that's all I got. If anybody has any questions, sorry for the screw up in the beginning.
Those are beautiful photos, Matt.
Oh,
great pictures.
Unbelievable. I've never seen so many different kinds of nudibranchs in my entire life right there, except in a book.
Oh, you got to go to Anilau or Tulambin then. They've got even more. So,
Fantastic.
yep.
Terrific.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
How deep are the dives? Like, can you do 2-3 hour dives, or are they like deeper?
On the boat dives, they maxed it out they were a little bit deeper. You get down to like 80 feet and they capped it at 1 hour. But for the house reef, you could spend as much time as you want. I did, 2-hour dives on the house reef. So there's smaller or shallow areas that are, 20 to 30 feet. And then there's deeper areas on the house reef that are 60 to 80 feet. But you could spend 3 hours doing a dive on the house reef easily. I did it like every day after the boat dives. So
Who did you stay with?
I stayed at Mabul Water Bungalows, which is a little bit more expensive. The other resort that they own, Sipadan Mabul Resort, or Smart as it's called, is a lot cheaper and it's right next to it. You could easily stay at any of them and it'd be great. And then on Kapolei, Sipadan Mabul Resort is the one you want to stay at. I believe, yeah, it's the only resort on Kapolei, but you can't go wrong with any of those. The house reef is just fantastic on both of them.
Are the boat dives drift dives, or do you come back to the boat and do you have to stay with the group, or can you do your own thing?
You could do your own thing if you wanted to. On Sipadan, they were pretty much all drift dives. Slight current, but not too bad. but on Mabul and Kapolei, there was hardly any current. But you could do your own thing and then surface whenever you wanted. They were pretty lenient with that, but they just capped you in an hour for the boat dives.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Well, Matt, that
For
was,
what it's worth, we did Kapolei many years ago,
Yep.
and the drill there was we would go to Sipadan and do 2 morning dives and an afternoon dive, and then come back to Kapolei.
Yep.
And as you said, you know, the diving just right off of the resort was fine. I mean,
Yeah.
it was amazing.
Is there a particular time that's good to go there?
Oh, so the best time to go is April to November. I went in October, but it's the dry season. So you're gonna get the best conditions, and the water was 84 degrees. I believe like December to March, it rains a little bit more, but you can still have a great vacation. I actually know somebody that went in January and they saw like 4 or 5 blue ring octopus. So you might have a better chance of seeing them then. But I'm sure anytime you go is going to be great. You can't go wrong with that place.
Spectacular.
How many dive days did you have?
10. Yep, stayed for 10 days.
Cool. Were you satisfied after 10 days? Was it enough?
Yeah, I could have stayed another week if I had the time or money, but yeah, it was. I wouldn't recommend just a week to the South Pacific. I'd definitely say at least 10 days. 10 days to 2 weeks seems to be the sweet spot for most people going to South Pacific.
It's a long way to go. You might as well stay for a while.
Yeah, it takes you
Yeah.
a day to recover from the flights and the
Yep.
transfers. So if you just go for a week, you're,
Just-
you know,
yeah, crazy to work a week.
Yep.
Yeah, you did the
So
right thing.
I'd also recommend if you have the time, when we did it, we took a couple of days before the diving to go to the northern part of Borneo. That's on the Sipadan is off of Borneo, the island of Borneo. We went to the north of Borneo and went to the orangutan where their orphanage, if you will, and then another day with proboscis and silverleaf monkeys, and so that was very cool as well, if you can swing that.
I highly recommend that too. I did that in 1991, and when we were able to stay on Sipadan Island, and the orangutans were amazing.
nice.
There's a lot to see there too. I spent a month, diving and seeing a lot of Malaysia.
That's beautiful. We always dream with my sister about going a few months, but then we have stupid work.
Yeah,
Yeah, work ruins everything.
exactly.
Well,
That's
thank
very
you again.
exciting.
Sure thing.
Very nice, Matt.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Nice variety.
Hey, Matt, how was the internet on the island?
Oh, it was good. Yeah, perfect on Mabul. Yeah, there were no glitches whatsoever.
So you could go there and work.
Yeah. Yep.
Who wants to do that while you're having fun like this?
Yeah, it was just
You can't work if you're going to be doing 5 dives a day.
yeah.
There's no time to work when you're
No
having.
time to work.
Yeah, it's just 12 hours ahead of our time. So as long as you can work at the time you need, I guess.
Well, I'm gonna have to bail out. Thank you, everybody. I have to bail out now.
Okay. Well, Matt, Everett, do you have the destination for next month's?
I
presentation?
have the results.
All right.
Results are in.
Narrowly beating out Mexico, we have the Philippines winning.
Ah,
Yay.
okay.
So next month will be Philippines night. So if anyone voted for the Philippines, please shoot an email over to us at Undersea Divers, DIVE, at underseadivers.com. Just let me know you voted in the poll. You're looking forward to presenting, just so we can prepare everything accordingly. But looking forward to Philippines night next month. And then later on in the year, I believe in July, we will have nudibranch night. By far, nudibranchs were the most popular animal in our poll.
Great, great, great. Both are two great great destination and a real fun critter to be seeing. So, all right, I'm gonna also step out. I know Matt's been working all day here, so he'd like to go home. So, thank you all very much. The presenters, Matt, Daryl, Luis, terrific. Thank you. This was a great evening. So, thanks all for joining us, and see you next month.